Hello there and welcome to Discourse on Global Television, where we talk about critical issues bordering on our country. Today we want to examine, or we're turning our point, or we're taking a critical turning point towards Nigeria's democracy and the nationwide protests that is ongoing, the demand for electronic transmission of results and what it means for credible elections come 2027. Now, recently, the Nigerian Senate passed the Electoral Act's Amendment Bill 2026 after an intense deliberation, right? So they passed it, and however, lawmakers declined to adopt a mandatory real-time electronic transmission proviso that will require elections results from each polling unit to be electronically transmitted, immediately after a coalition. But instead, the Senate retained a more discretionary and vague clause about result transmission. Now, that decision has sparked waves of protest across Abuja as civil society organizations, youth activists, and thousands of concerned Nigerians took to the National Assembly gate to demand explicit inclusion of e-transmission in law to protest transparency. The protests under banners such as Occupy National Assembly have seen youth groups and CSOs coverage on legislature to press for legally mandated electronic transmission. Prominent political actors and civic groups argue that a missing clear e-transmission clause weakens the trust in the electoral system, and a lesson drawn from the controversies in the 2023 general elections when transmission glitches raised doubts about the integrity of results. Meanwhile, voices including the labor unions warn that failure to legislate strong electronic safeguards might lead to mass protest or even Boy Scouts. Opposing views caution about Nigeria's current infrastructure challenges, including limited coverage, network coverages, stressing that the rushed implementation of a real-time electronic transmission may disenfranchise rural voters, and that is the argument. Now, the crux of the debate isn't just about the technology, it's also about public confidence, about democratic legitimacy and electoral integrity. Now, let's just have a quick look at this video that is, already ongoing, the protest ground. We'll come back to the conversation. Please, just stay with us.
Billions are spent on elections, people vote, and at the end of the day, their votes are converted. And Nigerians are saying, enough of all of that. We voted people into the National Assembly. We have a representative democracy. That then means that not all of us can make decisions. Not all of us are in power. We have certain people, and that's why once every 4 years, there is election for people to elect the people that will represent them. When we have at the National Assembly, instead of representing,
we want to save democracy. The foundation of every democracy are free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections. But somehow in Nigeria, we have Democrats who do not like free and fair elections. In some African countries, military coup take place, nobody dies. In Nigeria, people die because they want to vote. The confidence of every corrupt politician is a rigged and criminal electoral process and a corrupt judiciary. We want real-time mandatory transmission of election results. Anybody who says that it is not possible is a thief. If the government say they do not know how to use technology, they should go and ask bandits and terrorists how they are calling kidnapper victims for them to collect ransom. There is maximum technology. It is mischief that is making it impossible for us to have technology to reduce human interference and improve and increase transparency. It must be done. My vote must count.
How long are you want to
for as long as it takes.
All right, that is what is ongoing right now at the National Assembly, where Nigerians are seen to be protesting, and apparently we've just heard that Labour Party or former Labour Party candidate 2023 elections, talking about the current ADC member Peter Obi, has also joined the cause. Now we will be joined by one of Nigeria's politicians, political stalwarts with experience in governance, legislation, and democratic reforms. To explore this conversation, we want to know what the protest tells us about Nigerians' relationship with democracy. We want to know why the e-transmission has become such a central demand, the role of political parties, civil society, and INEC in strengthening electoral transparency, and whether a mandate for electronic transmission is feasible or desirable. So we will be joined by our guest after this break. Don't go anywhere, please. We will still connect to our guests. But before we do, let's just lay a foundation of the conversation coming to you today. Now, if you are a concerned Nigerians or a Nigerian, if you are currently updated with the happenings, you will know that the protest is ongoing. Yes, a protest is ongoing at the National Assembly, and it has pulled together different personalities, just as we showed you. Peter for Nigeria, we have Mama P there, you know, that's all of these persons are at the forefront of activism and, you know, the fight for good governance. Now, a lot of Nigerians have argued that this protest is what is needed, you know, to help amplify the voices of Nigerians, especially with the fact that there are concerns about our democratic processes, our elections, and judging from the 2023 elections that occurred, which also brought about different opinions and grievances from contestants, from electoral candidates, from presidential candidates, and even gubernatorial candidates. It is the basis for this demand. Nigerians also, on the other hand, political analysts and also policymakers are also of the opinion that the demand for electronic transmission of results in a time as this is not feasible, considering the fact that there are people in the rural communities that are not up to date. There are people within rural communities that also have issues with networks, and all you have it in that environment. So the bone of contention now is, how do we have an all-encompassing law that captures both people in the rural and people in the urban communities, where the realities across this different environments differ? Now, in my opinion, I feel that there should be maybe a law that caters to our differences, because we can't have a law all encompassing, basically because of our different realities. With the e-transmission of results, it will require that real-time transmission of results be done in rural communities, and we know the realities of our networks. Yes, even without glitches, without having such an occasion, a program like that, you know how it can be difficult, accessing networks at some points. Now, how much more when we have such an activity as elections? Coming together of different personalities would also always bring about a glitch in the network, even during making calls at such point. So the conversation continues. Differing opinions are what are being brought to the table. And of course, everybody has their valid reasons, right? Why they feel that this should not be a talk in 2026. We want to compare ourselves with different persons or different countries across the climes of the world. And when you see the realities, when it comes to elections and its activities, we have different realities across the country, across the nation, across the globe. So what are we trying to adopt? Are we trying to adopt something that is realistic, even though it is something that is already used largely amongst other countries? Is it a reality in Nigeria? Is it something that is suitable? Are we qualified? Are we ready for what we are demanding for? Especially considering the fact that elections is just by the corner. It is in 2027. So do we have enough time frame to put things in check? The Federal Capital Territory area council elections is going to be coming up in this month of February, and the INEC chairman, in person of Professor George Amobiton, has come out to say that these elections is going to be a litmus test that would help examine or see the loopholes across different elections. So this is like something that projects, that will be used as a projection to examine the failures and the successes, even as we prepare for the 2027 election. So Nigerians are concerned, yes, and the concerns are actually valid. Those that are for, those that are against are coming with their point, and we want to say that it is valid. There is a need to actually hear from more experienced politicians, policymakers, those that are in the system. Video circulating across the media has one of the prominent voices on social media, in person of Very Dark Man. He has come out to say that this is fruitless. And what we should be seeing, instead of youths rallying around and demanding this change, we should see key political actors, those that are fit, those that the youth really want to lead, that are deemed fit of leadership positions, the likes of Peter Obi, the likes of Atiku Abubakar, the likes of Nasir El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, and those leaders that are being positioned as better leaders, that he's saying that they should be in the forefront of this protest because they have the loud voice. They understand the system better than the ordinary Nigerian youth that probably is not in terms or in tune with the happening. So what are your thoughts? What do you think? It's basically about what we even think. We really need to hear from a key policymaker. We need to hear from someone that is clearly in the system. We're going to be bringing to you the latest as events unfold. Of course, on global television, we'll unravel everything that is happening in that space, even as the protest continues. And the Nigerian Labour Congress has also said that it is going to be joining the protest in no time. So, there is a lot happening, yeah? There's a lot happening. Whatever you think at this point in time, should it really matter? Of course it does, because your opinion is valid and it's a democratic nation we're running, so everybody has a right to speak. But is it just about lending your voice? Does the protest solve it all? Does the kind of placard really bring about the change we really want to see? Do we really have the power to drive this change? Do we really have the power? Will the protest produce what we really want? That is, talking about the Nigerians that want the electronic transmission of results, real-time transmission of results. Actually, one of the concerns, of course, is the 2023 elections. Now, if you flash back to 2023 elections, there are lots of grievances with the result. People came out to say, while I was in my polling unit, I had the votes, I had the counting, I had, the leading party at the point where where it was being counted. I stayed till my vote was counted. But when the vote was eventually transmitted, when the vote was eventually taken back to the collation centers, when the vote was compiled and brought to us by the INEC chairman, then it did not tally. A lot of people had this, concerns across political parties. Now, I think that one of the things that is needed in elections, aside, INEC doing its own part, political parties need to have structure that will ensure that votes count. Yes, a situation where structure is not put in place, a situation where the party doesn't have enough, leaders in the forefront, people that would stay at collation centers, people that would take the polls or the votes or from the collation centers to from the polling units, rather, I beg your pardon, to collation centers. A situation where a party doesn't have a registered voting officer, it becomes a problem. So structure is required. And aside that, political parties or Nigerian youth on social media seem to want to always focus on, the social media space and thinking that it's a reality for, the electoral processes. But no, it isn't. We don't channel our energy to the rural communities where the vote buying actually really happens. How many voting or party agents are sent to rural communities? How many party agents see through the process? How many party agents are well represented in rural environments? These are the questions. So it's not just about coming out on social media to lament and to demand for a change. No, it's about how you carry out process and make sure that it is carried out to the later, right? The city, the urban environments have a way of, somehow, I don't feel it's really much of a problem compared to the rural communities where people are not so enlightened. Now, what happens in the long run is when these things are unchecked, when these things are unattended to, when these people are neglected, then it gives room for election malpractice. It gives room for rigging and the likes of it. So, my question is, what are we doing? Yes, what are political parties doing to ensure that there is so much sensitization in rural communities? What are political parties doing to ensure that voter education even goes down to the common man, to that man that cannot hear English, to that man that speaks only their native language? How are we translating, this policies? How are we translating the news? How are we translating the education? How are we translating it to different languages? These are part of the assignments that political parties should ensure they carry out. Because, like I say, this is where it really happens. We want to really understand the start to the finish of elections, what it entails, aside having your PVC, aside being a card-carrying member of a party. What does it require? What's required to actually lead or to actually win a political office? Yes, we want to talk about all of this on Discourse today. So the topic is election transparency, Nigerians protesting, demanding e-transmission, and highlighting democratic concerns. We are going to examine the critical turning points in Nigeria's democracy, and we're going to talk about the nationwide protest. We're going to talk about the demand for electronic transmission of results, what it actually means for 2027, and, talking about the electoral acts, the repeal and reenactment Amendment Bill 2026 after intense deliberations and lawmakers declining to adopt the mandatory real-time electronic transmission provision that would require elections from polling units to be electronically transmitted immediately after the collation. Instead of all of this, the Senate says no and retained a former law. Yeah, now the decision, of course, is sparking waves. It has sparked reactions. Civil societies are coming out like never before. Democracy, I would say, is working. Now, you may not like the movement, right? But it doesn't mean that you castigate, you scrutinize, or you might actually have your opinion, but it doesn't mean that whoever is out there trying to lend their own voice is not doing the right thing. It's just the right thing in their own eyes, just as you have yours in your own eyes. So, good thing is we have a well-experienced politician here to help us understand what is happening, because our opinions. Okay, so we're here with.
I've thanked patriotic Nigerians that came out this morning in a peaceful protest to be able to tell our National Assembly members that our vote must count. We want giants of Africa to be true giants, not giants in doing the wrong thing, but giants in doing the right thing. And that must start that we are a democratic nation, and if that is what we are, our electoral process must be transparent, our electoral process must be free and fair. I've said it several times. If you want to answer His Excellency, if you want to answer distinguished, if you want to answer honorable, the process through which you come into office must be honorable, it must be distinguished, and it must be excellent. And that process starts by, first, your qualification, which is stipulated in the law. You must show the primary school you went to, the secondary school, the university. That's where it starts. So you're qualified to even contest that election. You go through all the processes of campaigning, through where we're going to have normal campaign, debates, everything, because you're offering yourself to the people. And finally, on that election day, the result must be transmitted from the polling booth to the IRF, where the collation, where everybody will be seeing it. That's in real time. That's what happened in South Africa. That was happened in Ghana. That's what happened on other African countries. The giant of Africa should be giant now, not giant in doing the wrong thing. We want it to be a true giant.
Okay, sir, but it's like they didn't allow you to enter.
Yes, the police said we cannot enter. As law-abiding citizens, we are not part of rascality. We decided to obey that law, but we have conveyed our message to those who are supposed to know. And that message is clear. Let's have transparent election process. We're not asking for anything. It's something simple. It's for their own future, for the future of their own children. Today they are senators, the honorables, some people are in power, but we are talking about what will endure for the future of the country. We need this country, we need the unity, we need the peace.
What is the implication of this action of the Senate on 2027 election?
You have seen implication in 2023 election. We want to end glitch.
Yes.
No more glitch.
Now that we've been denied access into the National Assembly, what next step are we going to take?
We've conveyed our message. Our message is now known to them. Message is known to everybody. That's what you're carrying now. And we follow it up.
So why do you think the next president said that there will be no mandatory transmission of results? Why do you think this is? Because they want to rig the election, or?
I said you've seen the consequence in 2023. We don't want that repeat.
Your Excellency, sir, the Senate President is saying that social media and every other person are lying against him.
Get your voice
We're still here. We'll get my voice as much as possible. You will get my voice later. I'm here. I'm not leaving. We'll get my voice. You will get. Continue.
Our vote
must count.
Our vote
Must count. Must count. Must count. Must count. Must count. It's okay. Let's go.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, now. Okay.
Hello, can you call that gentleman, please?
You can't sleep. Okay, I want to speak now.
Oh, yeah.
Greatest Nigerian people! Greatest Nigerian people! Of the greatest Nigerian people! We are citizens, we are not slaves. We are citizens, we are not slaves. And we're here today making demands, Nigerians, from all walks of life. And we're saying that indeed we want electronic transmission of results. And I'm speaking today, and I'm saying, we do not want a situation where senators are coming out and making press conferences. Neither do we want a situation where they are coming out and doing media rounds or Twitter spaces. And here, I'm saying to you, they have the constitutional power and authority to indeed ensure that there's real-time electronic transmission of results. That is all Nigerians are asking for. The Senate President is saying that there are places where there are no network. If they don't have, which is a shame, by the way, Nigerians will provide that network. If INEC can register everywhere, they can also provide those networks. And we're saying indeed that the voices of the people should be heard.
Thank you.
Great
Nigeria people of the greatest and super greatest Nigerian people. Great Gbogbo, great Gbagba, great Gbi. I want to talk, I want to say, I want to speak, I want to. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in the history of the Nigerian people, we've seen people coming out, but this coming out is the one of the most greatest coming out because His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi is here with us.
The president of the people.
And the reason why His Excellency is here is to show you the capacity of energy. He was in Enugu, he was in Asaba, he was also in Delta State. Yesterday he was in Kano. Today is he here to solidarize with you. Tell me, how many of the presidential candidates has come out to come and support you in this regard? Two, the issue is about the lives and properties of Nigerian people. They have held us in perpetual poverty for too long. The only thing that we hold on to ourselves is having a credible election. It's credible election that will give us credible leaders. We are saying that we must have credible election, and that means transmission of result from the polling unit directly to the RF. Where they used to manipulate with is this at the collation center. We say no to collation center. We say direct transmission of result. We say we must have credible election in Nigeria. No transmission of result in election, no election. Election must be done credibly. We must have credible leaders in Nigeria. Great Nigerian people! The people stand as spoken.
Hold on. Dr. Tanko, the issue is not that no credible election and no credible, what did you say? No transmission. No, there has to be transmission. It's sacrosanct. Let me tell you something. The fact is that the National Assembly has the power to pass it and they must pass it. The same way they did their two-third when it came to rivers, they must do that same two-third.
That is why we are insisting.
So we are not saying no, there will be election, there will be a mandatory electronic transmission of results.
We must
listen to the people because the people are the ones who employ them to be in the National Assembly. That's what it's
Okay.
Well, on behalf of other civil society coalitions, the Lawyers in Defense of Democracy are here.
Without free and fair elections, there is no democracy. The current administration supported the June 12th movement. It was about free and fair elections. Do we have Democrats who are afraid of peaceful elections in Nigeria? Nigerians, if this... Are you okay? If your votes do not count, we are not moving forward. 2027, our vote must, but the most important thing is whether they pass it or not. We must mobilize against 2027. Tomorrow, National Assembly is reconvening and they will meet us here until the right thing is done. We thank you, our leaders who came to show solidarity with us, and we say, Aluta continua.
Thank you. On behalf of other coalitions of civil society that are here, I represent Lawyers in Defense of Democracy. My name is Barrister Kere Kingdom. We were here on Friday. We are here again today. We will be here tomorrow. We are saying simple, leveraging on what our leader...
All right, this is an interesting one, and we have someone in the studio, my co-host. It's like one of the first times we're doing this together. Samuel D.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's almost weird, but let's just have the conversation.
Okay, so you were there, you were at the protest ground. What did you observe?
Okay, it's just one message that every protester have, like let there be an e-transmission on electoral results. That is what the ball of contention was. But, you know, we saw on national TV at the time we're having conversation around the National Assembly, we're having conversation over the difference between transmitting and transferring, which is what Nigerians are really frowning towards, saying that what they want specifically is electronic transmission of the results and not transferring anything, because they said they had glitches, and then a reasonable amount of budget was given during the 2023 elections, and then a reasonable budget was given this same time. Earlier we saw 300 million in the 2023 election because of the whole beavers and all that later failed, and then that had glitches, in the word of the former INEC chairman. Now, ₦1 trillion was given to the INEC in line with the same purpose of getting technological advancement to be able to transmit electoral results from the polling units. Now, it's not being passed by the National Assembly. Some are arguing, some protesters are arguing that they want that to happen, or let the Senate President vacate his seat.
That is indeed serious. And one of the concerns Nigerians have, or some of the analysts, policy analysts, I think we had one on one of the programs here, and he made mention of the fact that network can be a hassle in rural communities. I heard Aisha Yusuf saying something like they are going to help provide network. I mean, we have routers, we have good,
internet providers.
Providers that can help.
Currently, now, with the way it's looking out there, it's nowhere. If the bandits can transmit from the bush, and
that's another point.
If the bandits, can transmit from the bush, why can't Nigeria, the giant of Africa, be able to transmit its own electrical?
We have all admitted, or we all know that the bandits, we have agreed, the bandits are more sophisticated than our soldiers.
Well, we can't, that is something that is still hard for me to believe, because over the years, before Nigerian insurgency, insecurity challenge loomed this high, we've seen Nigerian armies, even mobile police, go to neighboring African countries to control and do a whole lot of peacekeeping activities, and they come back victorious without even losing a soul.
They are not fighting more dangerous. These ones are more dangerous than those ones they go to, because it doesn't really make sense.
Well, actually, basically, it doesn't make sense to a common logical human being, right? Based on the excuses that the National Assembly gave on the fact that in some rural communities, like if someone like me make that comment and okay, within my community, I don't have the power to be able to transmit, it can be understandable because I'm a citizen. But a full country saying you can't transmit from some locations. Come on.
As if we are in some kind of ancient
world, which is not possible.
And leaves. That's what it's
and
like.
We have very, very strong networks that can actually get to anywhere. There are routers. There are a whole lot of network providers that can be able to provide this information and then transmit this information from any location. Nigeria is not that. It's not a forest. It's not a deep forest where you would say that we can't be able to. Finding it hard to transmit our results is something that we will not be able to do in rural communities. We've seen a whole lot of concerns, and this is what people are actually calling for. Though the Senate, on the other hand, after saying this, they made a comment that they will be coming out to have a conversation, an urgent meeting in line with settling these issues. But the protesters still maintain their stand. Some persons were still on ground before I left, and some were saying they'll be spending the night there, they're not going anywhere, and some were saying they would be coming back. We saw the former presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, on ground again, and then saying that he is current ADC member. But one thing still remains, that he's calling for the singular thing that let there be an electric transmission. That what we saw in the previous election is not something that we're expecting to see. We saw other a very strong advocate for Nigerian democracy, Aisha Yusuf, also on ground there, and she was also calling for the same thing. Everybody was mentioning the same statement: electoral transmission of the results.
Well, don't you think that we need to have more key political figures in front of this protest? Earlier, people had already speculated that we need to see the likes of Atiku Abubakar, we need to see the likes of Nasir El-Rufai, as former Kaduna State Governor, and many others that have also migrated to other parties, because they are the ones that we say you are the better leaders, right? And they know better. They know the system better than those Nigerian youths that are just, I don't want to say risking their lives at this point, but at the end of the day, it might amount to that, because anything can happen, right?
True.
So we need to see more of the key political actors. Anytime we're calling on the protest, like I said, I like the fact that we see Peter Obi in the forefront of this. How long is it going to stay there? We don't really know, but I mean, it's something. It's present. Why do we now and again, every time, see when it comes to protests, Nigerian youths risking their lives and these key political actors staying back? It doesn't even make sense to you. What is actually your opinion on
Actually, I was actually hoping that I was going to see a lot of, aside Peter Obi, because I thought I was going to see Peter Obi there. That was just me randomly thinking, and then boom, he was there. I was also thinking I would see other political leaders based on what we are seeing, and in the politicians jumping from one political party to the other. I was expecting to see those that have left the APC, those that felt that the President Bola Ahmed administration failed them or betrayed them. I was thinking maybe for that purpose they would be around on ground and join the Nigerians who protest and call for clear governance. But this is what people would say: they are all politicians and they are just all moving in circles.
So can we even say that if we don't see anyone represented there, or if we don't see anyone there, that means something is fishy? When you come out to say you are really concerned about Nigerians and you're trying to complain about the government, and you're not being represented, or you're not seen in places like this, demanding the change, because we don't want to see social media noise at this point, or we don't want to see you trying to make comments based on occurrences or events. No, this is where we need to see.
You know, if this doesn't change, because it's being stalled currently as we speak, if there is no swift change, that means they'll be resorting back to the 2022 Electoral Act, which is what all of these protesters and Nigerians are saying no towards. And INEC have made it clear that if they don't move that day from their own end, they've made everything possible, you know, to be able to have all of these activities transmitted. All they are waiting for is an approval from the Senate to, like, okay, yes, you can be able to do this. But now what they are still fighting over is transfer and transmit. But the meeting that they will be having, we would be hoping that we'll be getting a very reasonable response from them on why they were even, you know, slacking and also delaying the transmission of this bill.
It's not even the issue of INEC saying we cannot do it. Because INEC is saying we have the capacity. Professor George Amupitan came out to say that we are capable.
We are capable.
We are capable of doing it. So why at this point, I think the House of Reps, the members are crying more than the bereaved, because you are not supposed to, you are not in charge of this thing. The person that is supposed to do it is saying we can't do it.
You can't do it.
It just looks as if there's everything fishy about it.
Yes, because currently now we can't even hold the president accountable, but very soon we'll need to hold the president accountable, because he needs to step up and then have a conversation with the Senate on why they are stalling to pass this, because is money the problem now? Literally, they've told the whole world that money is not the problem. 1 trillion naira has been given to INEC to make all your preparations for the elections. And then they have come out and like, yes, we have the capacity to be able to handle this. So now, you coming to tell us that, okay, arguing over transfer and transmission, it's just so appalling to even have this kind of conversation. So Nigerians are a very intelligent set of humans, and this is not rocket science. We have a lot of network providers. You can go there with multiple ones. If this one is not working, definitely one will work. So we're just waiting to see what would happen if they would actually go through and then pass this bill, or some other reasons why it cannot be passed. A side network will be provided.
So in all of this, I really think that this is the power of social media, because when this whole thing was passed, it looked as if there was some kind of calm. Nobody really noticed, except those in the news house and all of that. It was quiet on social media, and then one person comes up with a chant, one person comes up with a cry, and then every other person follows. So the power of social media in democracy,
this modern
age in this time is really playing out. If we didn't have this, if we didn't have social media, do you think all of this would even happen?
I think social media came in the time that is proper. I would say that is well needed, because before now it's rare to be able to see all of these things happening. Now social media has opened the eyes of a lot of people. Like, okay, aside the normal television and radio medium, people can get information on their phone, and then social media have played that massive role. So without the social media earlier before now, I'm not certain the numbers that we saw, because from what the protesters said, people came out willingly. Nobody was cajoled, nobody was paid. Nobody is coming out to like, okay, at the end of the day, you will give me water, or you will give me money to pay my way back. People voluntarily came out because of what they saw, and literally it's high time for this change to happen.
But we know all of this is happening in the city. The rural communities are not aware that such a thing is happening. So at the end of the day, how does this even translate? Like, when it's the voice of the people, we know that, but it's not the voice of all the people, because there are still people that don't use social media. I think it now depends on these actors and these groups to organize, strategize, re-strategize on how to visit local communities, because this is the power that is used in rigging. We do all the whole chanting in the city, we do all the whole noise making on social media. When it's time to rig, the villages are targeted. There's no structure, there's nothing whatsoever to make sure that things go well in the rural communities. So political parties need to do better. Civil society groups need to do better when it comes to voter education. We don't know, these things are not known in the villages. I keep shouting it. It's not known, they are not known in the villages. It is only you in Abuja, the city of Abuja, that knows that there's a protest going on.
But you see, this is actually taking a different turn, because on Friday, when all of these things happened, a couple of people were there at the National Assembly, quiet. Today's response is different. And then they have said that tomorrow they'll be coming out again. I think there is a proper awareness going on. So far, so good, though, like you mentioned, in the urban and the rural communities. Yes, that's where elections start from. We saw some weeks ago one of the ministers going to rural communities to say, to pay homage to, rural, to the community leaders in those communities, not looking at the bad road. Now it's time for them to also go back to that same rural community and educate these people. I think INEC used to also create an electronic a voters register education, so that these people would know what their rights are, and then move with the trend of technological innovation, which is helping. In countries, okay, we saw the election that happened in the US. We can't compare the US with Nigeria, but some US citizens that were in Nigeria that I know of, that were not able to travel back, were able to cast their votes from Nigeria here, and then it happened. Nigeria can't be spending this amount of money, and then we'll be saying that we will not be able to transmit. Like this year alone, 1 trillion was given to INEC. So why can't we be able to transmit our own results properly here? Not even talking about other Nigerian citizens that are outside the country.
The US use electronic transmission of results. I don't think they do that. Research.
I think looking at it now, possibly they kept how they always have a percentage of who is leading per time. So if they can only do that with technology. So that's something that the Nigerian government and INEC also need to look at, and then take a portion, take a cue, based on the fact that we say that we are practicing the United States form of democracy. They need to look into their system properly and not just pick what they feel would work with them and will work with any way that they can maneuver things and turn things to their favor. They should pick the right things that would help the citizen of the country.
Okay, so I really think that there's also a place of integrity. I mean, you can take all the votes and transmit electronically for all some citizens care. But how about if that man in that space that is supposed to transfer it has been paid? Do you understand? At the end of the day, what we're fighting for is
vain.
We don't want corruption, right? We don't want our efforts to go in vain. If you have somebody without integrity manning that device, do you understand? And so ultimately, we need people with integrity, and that is one thing that is lacking in Nigerians. If I tell you,
you see, hunger has eaten deep, but now people are waking up to say the fact that it goes beyond what you're going to give me now. How much? If that person sitting on that seat now, it falls back to individuals, because
we're not talking about rice. We're talking about someone that will hold the device and transmit. Because it's not. I'm
not talking about those people collecting rice either. I'm actually talking about that same individual that would be holding that machine, that will be transmitting. That this has to come to the fact that because Nigerian getting better is not something that an individual will do. Everybody is playing his or her role to suit the fact that yes, Nigeria gets better. Now it boils down to individuals and being patriotic. Being someone with integrity. That's another role, and INEC needs to step in, because there are individuals who haven't had food to eat, and then the least 100,000 they are done, they will just fall to the gun. But we need to have people in positions. INEC needs to sanitize.
Is it an INEC thing, or I think we need to be talking to at this point?
At this point, INEC has a role to play. They need to create all of those avenues for people to come for those kinds of trainings, right? And then Nigerians on their own too need to do better by saying, no, I need to stand for what is right. We saw that happen in Abia State, where during the 2023 election, the lady that was supposed to do the collations, she came out, Professor, I can't really, have her, get her name right now. She came out, I was like, they came with their monies, they came with their threats, they came with everything, but she stood and said that she's not going to overturn the result. Those are the kind of people we need. I think we need women more in this particular positions, because they can decide. When a woman says, no, I'm not doing this, she can stand to it. So we need more strong women like that in those positions, so as they will be able to, stand and say, no, it's no. I can remember back in the day when my mom would say, no, you are not having this, and that is final. So I think we should have more women in those positions so they can be able to say no. And also men also can do the same, but we need sensitization. Individuals need to sit up and do better for themselves and say, no, I'm going to stand for what is true and stand for what is right, because whatever it is that you take, whatever amount of money that you take, it will not last you for 4 years.
That's the truth.
It will not last you for 4 years. And then you will also bear the brunt of the policies and whatever it is that administration will be bringing. So that is just what it is. At the end of the day, it boils down to individuals deciding to say that, no, I'm going to stand for what is right. And this is what Nigerians need to stand for. It goes beyond calling the National Assembly, the Senate President to pass the bill. What if these bills are passed and then these individuals don't stand up to what they actually supposed to stand up to?
Exactly. Now, if they pass the whole bill and these people don't stand up to it, so I think it's a point for Nigerians. And these activists, I keep emphasizing on them because I see the work they are doing, and we all love it, but it has to be done correctly, else your efforts is going to be wasted. So the likes of Peter for Nigeria, the likes of Aisha Yesufu, the likes of Mama P, the likes of all of them, they're doing a great, fantastic job, but there needs to be strategy, right? They need to understand how to locate those rural communities, translate languages in all the local languages we have, make people understand what you are saying, because you are speaking English as far as I'm concerned. There are people that don't understand English. They see what you're saying as jargons, right? So these are the strategies. When we're done fighting in Abuja, let us find our way. Let's pack our bags and go to the villages.
Most of the time, these individuals come out to say that they are not even being paid. So that's why sometimes it gets very, very hard for all of this information.
But when you have, you always see people, Nigerians will always willing to volunteer. You have Nigerians in the rural communities that do not mind these things, right? You always get like minds when you push a movement. That's it. People that came out to protest. We don't just have the Peter for Nigeria and the rest of it. There are people that left their houses. So the moment you make a clarion call for people to partner with you in the villages, speak their language, get one person in Abuja that can understand those languages and call them, you will see they will come out. So basically that's what I'm saying. And then I want to say, worst scenario, worst come to worst. This thing is not being passed. What is the way forward? Do we fold our hands and watch? Because everybody, these people have strategy. These guys that have their plans on rigging elections, they have their strategy. And they have strategized since 2023. They're not just strategizing now. So what is your strategy in case, because you always have a plan B, in case this does not work, it's time to start planning for the next move. What will we do? How many people do we need to get to go to villages to go and stand and watch the ballot boxes? How many people do we need to get to go and educate people in the villages? These are the things we're talking about now. While we channel our energy on protest and lending our voices, we need a strategy in case, just in case. Worst come to worst, we still have this thing because it is Nigeria at the end of the day.
Well, it is Nigeria, but Nigeria is taking a different turn because we're seeing that these citizens are standing up to say that they are not going anywhere. So now, talking about strategies now, yes, we know everybody doing whatever they are doing, whether good or bad, they will definitely have strategies so as if A doesn't work, B would work. And then the B that is looking out there now, glary to every politician, is the fact that they have the 2022 Electoral Act that was amended. So that is what Nigerians might fall to. But these protesters were clear, saying that they are not going to use that. They are not going to vote if this does not change. And then now, if they don't vote, now it boils down to, you know, the government, the president, like I said earlier, he will need to step up, and then he's going to need to speak up. If he's being a democratic president that he is, he's definitely going to pay attention to what the people are saying, and then have this, you know, bill passed. And then even if at least it's going to give Nigerians a bit of, you know, hope, you know, renewed hope agenda, a bit of hope that yes, okay, at least we are headed towards the right path based on the fact that we are seeing this, you know, this bill being passed. So we'll just fold our hands and keep, because the protesters said they are going to continue, and not just continue tomorrow. They said if they don't get a proper answer by tomorrow, that this protest will move to every other state in Nigeria. So maybe from that point now, we will see it trickling down to the local, to the villages and local communities, and then we'll see more, you know, things. It started gradual, just like what we saw during EndSARS. It started in one state, it now moved to Abuja, till it escalated all through. Even the end hunger protest that we saw last year, the same thing happened from one state to the other. So they are saying that they would continue until their cry is heard. We saw a couple of them with their mattresses and bags, saying they are not leaving, they are going to wait till they get a positive response. So we will see how all of this will pan out.
Indeed, this is a positive one. Of course, I feel like this is the cry, that this is a proof that democracy is prevailing in a country like Nigeria. And we're happy. I'm happy to be alive at a time like time like this, to witness this. Who would have ever believed that, you know, Nigerians can stand up and demand. And we never know, it might just be that their cry will be heard at the end of the day, but that's the prayer.
That's the prayer. Actually, that's the prayer. That's everybody's prayer.
Thank you for joining us. Do you have your PVC? Let me put you on the spot.
Yes, I do have a PVC.
Are you going to vote right? Okay, so please, it doesn't end here. Nigerians, go get your PVCs. We can make all the noise you want to make. If you don't have your PVC, there's really nothing you can do. You're not exercising your power. Yeah, your power is not just to come and shout. Yes, it's good that you're lending your voice, but your PVC is your power. I want to say thank you so much, Samuel, my co-host, for joining us today. And viewers, thank you so much for staying till this time. Discourse will also come your way tomorrow. It will come to you through my co-host here, Ramsey. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And see you tomorrow. Bye.